I've been in traditional finance for over 20 years. Started out my career in as an options trader for a prop firm here in Chicago. Traded for about 4 years. Joined Cboe Global Markets after that and was there for 15 and a half years. Ranged from responsibilities from our research and product development group, onboarding a number of Cboe's prop products, to then creating a number of option strategy benchmarks for Cboe. We incubated Cboe Global Indexes, which is Cboe's indexing business, really from a corporatepreneurship or entrepreneurship standpoint, and really took the indexing business from calculating, anywhere from 10 to 15 indexes to scaling that up to calculating over 500 indexes for the exchange. And so that was really exciting to be able to grow a business within a large organization, and then join CoinMetrics as their chief index officer to really build up their infrastructure as well as their capabilities to not only scale up their index calculations, but really take a lens on governance and compliance, from a crypto or digital standpoint. And then left CoinMetrics, and then now working on on BenchMarket, which is a peer-to-peer global marketplace for index licensing. And so, with that said, over 20 plus years of the traditional finance and experience, and looking to really proliferate that with BenchMarket. Join CoinMetrics again as their chief index officer to really help scale their business. With Cboe, we had an idea for calculating our indexes, or Cboe's indexes, and really creating a platform to do that, and really having an eye for governance and compliance to really try and scale. And so took that framework and applied it to crypto as well. So it's crypto, very nascent industry, growing obviously, and clearly with the news recently, black eye within the industry. But I think it still has legs to really provide that transparency that's needed within that industry to really grow. And so what we did was apply governance transparency for crypto, and then create indexes and benchmarks that people could use to create, I would say either product issued products, or even or ETFs, or mutual funds, or index linked investments in general, right? And so applying that framework was able to create a number of different indexes so that people could license, and then try to proliferate that. It's been an idea that I've had for quite some time. So being within the index industry for almost 2 decades, but in particular to the last decade, really had a lot of number of conversations throughout the industry. From a global standpoint, from an index licensing perspective, it really varied quite a bit, right? And I saw that within traditional finance, and really saw that pervasively within crypto. And so, with that said, the fees charged or access for index licensing has always been a one-to-one conversation, right? Where a product issuer or a sponsor would come in and say, hey, I need an index or a benchmark for a product. And then the fees charged for that for that sponsor would be X times a multiple, right? And then another issuer would come in and you would charge them X minus, or maybe even X times 1 or 2, as opposed to a 4 or 5 times. Access, I think, was a major issue on that. And we saw that, and I saw that pervasively within the crypto industry, where access to a Bitcoin index could range anywhere from a few $1,000s to a few $100,000, right? And that was one of those items that when you saw that variance, hey, there's an issue with disparity within this market, and there's some efficiencies needs to be created within this industry. Now, the index industry has been around for, I would say, 40 plus years, with the first index-linked mutual fund launched in 1970s, right? So, but that conversation of obtaining those licenses and access has been the same. There has been no innovation within that sort of product stream, or that process. And so, with BenchMarket, I'm looking to try and reimagine that index licensing journey, to really say, hey, let's democratize that, change it from a one-to-one conversation to a one-to-many conversation, and really trying to lower the cost on it. It's more of a line of, hey, we're not necessarily disrupting the market, right? We're just innovating access to it, and providing I would say, a better, pathway to lower costs for investors, and build wealth for investors downstream. If we can get a number of different ETF issuers and sponsors and product product sponsors to join on board, I think we'll have a more economical discussion and more streamlined approach if we can get the whole, I would say, value chain for product issuers, index providers as well to join in on this conversation. Whatever business model a product issuer or an index provider provides, that's going to be their whatever model that they choose, right? However, we're saying if you have a certain set of requirements on governance, if you have a certain requirements on derived data that you need, you're going to have to pay a certain fee. But what exactly is the true market for that? And so BenchMarket is there to streamline that approach to really say, hey, here's what my requirements are for an RFQ, and here are the bids, the proper bids in the market that I should be charged. And it shouldn't be X times 4 or 5. It probably is X minus 3, right? And so that transparency is going to be key, and we're looking to try and create that efficiency. The proliferation of passive investments has been increasing for since the start, over 4 decades ago, right? And when you look at it from a standpoint of is from a product issuer's lens, they need an index or a benchmark to measure against or track against their product set. So any passively linked product or index-based product will need a benchmark. So effectively, the new products that are coming out, ETFs, mutual funds, etc., they all need indexes from a regulatory standpoint. That's a current need right there. And then from a transparency lens, with the likes of LIBOR that happened, a number of years ago, we want to just make sure that these benchmarks are governed properly and calculated properly to the extent of what the index methodologies, have been defined as, and making sure that that is, I would say, to a T, or calculated to a T is beneficial for investors downstream, because whatever is calculated, or whatever is calculated, exactly what's supposed to be there, because the methodology defines that, right? Now, in an instance of governance and controls, a lot of the providers currently out there, the smaller ones, not to say who, but there are some that don't necessarily follow IOSCO principles, right? They don't follow EU BMR initiatives and so on. And so from that standpoint, I think indexes in general are beneficial for investors downstream for passive linked or index-based investments. And I think that's going to continue to grow. But obviously the lens that people do need to take is that, we need to make sure that these indexes are reliable and so on. And so BenchMarket hopefully will build that trust, and lower costs, right? Because one, we're not only creating a market for these indexes on what people should trade, but if index issuers or product issuers have certain requirements, we're going to make sure that those questions are asked, and then those are aligned to what they need from a regulatory standpoint, just so that their investors downstream are protected, and not only their investors, but the product issuer as well. From a regulatory standpoint, we know that's going to increase, and being able to provide that transparency is going to be key, right? It's how do I know that I'm being a fiduciary duty, providing a fiduciary duty to my client downstream, right? Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is create wealth for the investor, because it's the investor who typically pays for the data fees, the index licensing fees, and so on, right? And that's passed on to the investor through management fees. So at the end of the day, I think providing a more streamlined RFQ process for this will create efficiencies and say, hey, we are looking out for the investor. There are a number of beta indexes out there, and we're doing our due diligence to make sure that, one, we're getting the best possible price with the best possible index provider out there. We're looking to launch in potentially Q1, obviously in a number of different items that we are working on right now, but anticipated for launch of sometime in Q1. At the moment, it's self-funded, and eventually, as we look to start to scale and really build out new, I would say, attributes for our platform, potentially we'll look to start raising capital.